tears of the crown to the tears of a clown, don't we? And every week we have more and more scandals. Apparently, what's happening now, they're ranting claims. He's round there. He's had a meltdown at the manor, if you like. He's raging in the royal lodge. And it's probably the end of the party former prince. Apparently, what's happening, he's ranting to himself. He's very upset about how he's being treated. And his ex-wife, Sarah, seeks solace in the secret doghouse bar. And she's apparently persuading staff members to stay.
A grand home, a sprawling estate, and a legacy unraveling in the hush of late afternoon at the gates of Windsor Great Park. The enormous frontage of Royal Lodge stands quiet in its 30 rooms, but inside, something far more silent and ominous stirs. For while the exterior bears the mantle of royal tradition, within the corridors dwells fear, real, personal, and deeply unsettling. At the heart of this unease is Sarah Ferguson, formerly Duchess of York, who is reported to be gripped by dread for the safety of her ex-husband, Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, once Duke of York, now stripped of title, stripped of privilege, and reportedly seen as a target. Friends say she fears him being in some kind of crosshairs, and though the language may sound dramatic, the atmosphere is unmistakably tense. Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. The eviction notice has been served. Andrew's lease at the Royal Lodge is to be surrendered. The home which once offered sanctuary now echoes with change. Sarah, 66, now finds herself not only facing upheaval of residence and status, but haunted by what comes next. According to insider reports, she has told confidants she and Andrew may be vulnerable, given his central role in scandal and the tidal public scrutiny that followed. She speaks rather unroyally of dark forces, of being caught in the crosshairs, and though formal statements from the palace remain polite, the undercurrents pulse with disquiet. Their current cohabitation arrangement belies the story beneath. Though divorced since 1996, the former couple have lived together at the lodge in practical alliance, but insiders say the alliance has frayed. The house remains large, the maintenance burdens heavy, and the lease, originally granted to him, has hovered over them like a contract of privilege now under formal review. The eviction looms, the move is in motion, the past privileges inexorably fade. And in that fading, Sarah's unease becomes a lens into both personal fear and institutional repair. What does it mean to fear for the life of a man once clothed in title and belonging? Andrew was among the Queen's favorites historically, the subject of both privilege and expectation. Now, amid his links to the late Jeffrey Epstein and the resulting public avalanche, his existence has shifted from symbol to liability. Sarah perceives the shift not only in status, but in safety. Whether the threat is real or perceived, her panic is palpable. She is said to be not in a good place, leaning heavily on a dwindling staff entourage, finding comfort in late nights behind the lodge in a private bar, talking things through with friends who fear they are watching a long-trusted world fracture. Her concern is not only for Andrew, but for their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, whose titles remain, but whose family foundations tremble. And what of the house itself? The halls that once welcomed royal receptions, formal banquets, stately dinners now echo with the click of packing boxes and the hush of contractors. Reports say Andrew has become quiet, even withdrawn, pacing the rooms, murmuring to himself, disconnected from the bustle he once enjoyed. Sarah divides her days between service to duty, social appearances, and private anxiety. The lease that once symbolized comfort now serves as a countdown. How long until the key is handed back, the rooms emptied, the gates closed? And will the departure be peaceful or charged with resentment and regret? The symbolism cannot be ignored. A royal house vacated, a title revoked, a former top-tier prince left in limbo. Sarah's fears for his life may strike many as melodramatic, yet they reflect a deeper truth that when reputation collapses, protection follows. Title offers more than letters behind a name. It offers buffer, system, structure. Without title, what remains is a man, vulnerable in a world that no longer shields him the way it once did. Sarah, once the Duchess of York, now contemplates her future outside the framework that once defined her. She envisages life apart from him, close to grandchildren, in a home that is her own, but in her heart the loyalty remains. She fears leaving him alone in open territory. For the institution of monarchy, this episode is telling. The quiet removal of a royal's title, the surrender of a privileged residence, the shifting alliances behind the scenes all speak to an organization under pressure. Public scrutiny demands action. The Windsor legacy demands clarity. Andrew's fate becomes a test of loyalty, of duty, of what happens when one of its own becomes a perceived liability. Sarah's anxiety is not just hers, but shades the whole narrative of privilege, scandal, and consequence. And what of the daughters, the next generation standing at the edge of this storm? Beatrice and Eugenie remain princesses, but their roles have been overshadowed. The emotional toll on them is unseen but inevitable. Sarah, in her panic, thinks of them constantly. She contemplates their futures, their titles, their standing. Knowing that the ground beneath them is shifting, she fears for them not just socially, but for their hearts.
In the great wheel of monarchy, change is rarely abrupt. It is seldom violent. It is quiet, persistent, systemic. The eviction of Andrew and Sarah from the lodge is part of a much broader recalibration of financial responsibility, of public duty, of what the royal family will tolerate in the era of transparency. Andrew may still deny wrongdoing, may still hope for rehabilitation, but the structures around him are already repositioning. Sarah's fears are a human reaction to that structural repositioning. Yet in that fear, there is resilience. She may feel exposed, but she is also a woman who has lived scandal, endured scrutiny, rebuilt her image. She may be fearful for Andrew's safety, but also fiercely dedicated to her daughters and to the identity she still holds. The bar behind the lodge where she retreats, the staff she still trusts, these are not just cheerleaders, but lifelines. A network of familiarity when the world tilts. As injuries go, this one is not visible. There is no broken bone, no public collapse. There is emotional rupture, displacement, erasure of status. And the House of Windsor watches, silent but attentive. They've initiated the process. Titles will fall, lease will go. But what comes after? What is life for Andrew? What is life for Sarah? Will the world see them fully leave or simply fade into a quieter existence? In the end, the photograph that may stand out is not of the eviction notice, nor of the lease surrender, nor even of Sarah's private drinking sessions. It is of a woman standing at a window, looking out over the grounds of Royal Lodge, her expression steadied but distant, carrying a mixture of fear for her past and hope for a future. And beside her, in another wing of the house, a man once central, now drifting, no longer shielded by title or tradition. And the silence between them is haunting. For the viewers of Crownverse, this story resonates beyond royalty. It challenges our assumptions about protection, privilege, and what happens when both vanish. It asks,
When a symbol falls, who stands at the gates? When a title is stripped, who catches the man behind the name? When home is no longer home, where does one go? Sarah Ferguson's fears for Andrew's life may or may not be grounded in conspiracy, but they are grounded in real loss of home, of title, of safe place. And in royal history, that kind of loss matters as much as any public scandal. The keys will change hands. The 30-room mansion will echo differently. Titles will be updated, but beneath it all remains something unchanging. The human story of fear, of loyalty, of transition. And for Sarah Ferguson, standing on the threshold of a new life, that story is deeply personal. The question remains, will she step forward into independence, or will she remain guardian of a man whose fall may yet have consequences? And is the monarchy ready to watch him walk alone?